Hello.
Hello. I am just thinking about how I've been doing this a lot because Harriet, my daughter, she goes like this when she's thinking. She goes, "Let me think about that." Hmm. And it's like it's giving evil villain.
Totally. You have a cat in your lap.
Mhm.
Good thinking 27.
27 is a lucky number, I think, in my head.
Oh, yes, I like that. Totally into that.
20, everybody has a good 27. There's nobody I've ever met who's like, "Oh, when I was 27, that year sucked."
Yeah, that's true. I'm here for that. That's totally true.
Everybody has a good 27 generally. I mean, unless some life tragedy happens, but you know, for the most part, everyone's having a good time at 27.
Mm-hmm. Feels like maybe 28's moving into more responsibility. You can see 30 on the horizon. You're
Yeah,
not
I don't
quite
know.
the idiot you were at
Nobody
22, but like,
moans.
yeah, 27. Yeah, it's a good call.
Yeah.
Oh, 27.
33 too.
Oh,
Hmm.
all right. Okay.
Yeah.
I like
Yeah.
this. I can't wait till we get to the
This
50s.
is
Can't wait to hear.
science. This is science.
All right, well,
Knowledge
put your
about
lab
science.
coat away. Yeah, put your lab coat away. Let's dig in. I'm coming to you from Traverse City, Michigan, and Norman Rockwell's basement.
Amazing.
I want to do things a little bit differently. We've kind of dug into one specific kind of theory or thinking in the past couple of episodes, which I think has been awesome. But I want to kind of maybe dig into five specific things
Ooh,
that we mentioned in the newsletter and do a little bit of a deeper dive in them. Again, keep it kind of clean, succinct. Try to stay within a digestible time period and go from there.
let's do it. What's number one?
Number one is kids. Kids. I mean, so inspiring to see Kim's store and experience with play and kind of all of the other things. And we've talked about it for a long time. Certainly what Kith is doing in Malibu that I've yet to go and see. But it's so much of what we saw in Milan. We've talked about this idea, because I have 10 and 12-year-old. You have what did Harry just turn?
She's
4?
4.
Yeah,
She's 4.
4-year-old. And so it's obviously a huge part of our lives and certainly friends and family and people we work with. And it's just a huge part of like a growing space. So I just want to dig, deeper within kind of brand and retail and experience within kids. But start there.
Great. Yeah, I mean, I don't think kids brands, like Stella McCartney has been doing her kids brand for whatever, like as long as I can humanly remember. So it's not like this is a new space. I think what's interesting to me is just like how it's shifting for me, and like I'll give you my take on it and you can give me your take on it. But my
Cool.
take on it is that there is a shift of parents like wanting kind of better, like for sure, like just more stylish, more cool, but also more thoughtful. Like Mark Bittman's book, like that is the Bible of cooking, right? For adults. And like to make
Okay.
that cooking, like to think that kids could cook on that level, I don't think with like 5-10 years ago we were giving kids credit, but like your daughter's making ube like bread and like learning about all sorts of cool things that like I just don't think that people really like gave kids the opportunity or like assumption that they would even like be interested in this level of sophistication. And I think that like with Kim's
Mm-hmm.
play, like Kim started doing before she has her amazing store, which is at the platform. Go see it, it's incredible. But
Yes.
like
Go see
before
it.
that she had Lifetime of Leisure, which she still
Mm-hmm.
has, which is like a really curated vintage. Like my favorite posts
Vintage
of
kids
hers
line.
are
Yeah.
these, yeah, the cool kids coming in and styling this stuff for themselves. Like they want this cool stuff too. And like not just like teenagers, but tweens and maybe, even slightly below tweens. And like I think that to me, like there's just something happening where there's like an awakening going on. So that's my interpretation of what's
Yeah.
happening.
I think that's totally true. I think it's totally true. I think from the parent standpoint, we're treating our kids more as human beings, like as actual little people. And I think we have from kind of the get-go. That's just, the parenting philosophy has changed, and has changed from even when I was a parent to, 10 years later when you were started out being a parent. Like the philosophy continues to change and evolve, and you always do best with, what is it? You do best with what you know, and then you kind of grow from there. But I think actually treating kids like people, right? Like people in whatever their ability to do that, and empowering them to do whatever it is that they can do. Like I love when my daughter wakes up and makes her own breakfast and makes her own egg and kind of does all of those things. Like I would never have done that, probably out of interest when I was a kid, but also my parents would have never empowered me to be able to do that. It was like, don't touch the stove, don't touch this. It was worry, kind of all of these parts and pieces. I will say also, being devil's advocate, I think there is the end of like social media, and they're exposed to so much, and too young in my opinion. Like they're exposed to just so much of the world, and Sephora and Ulta and all of these things that they do grow up and have exposure to more, that then kind of turns them into, oh, this, I've seen this little kid styling this way, I'm inspired by that, or do that, or I saw this video on YouTube and I'm inspired to do that. So I think there's a, good and bad within that of how much they're being exposed to. But yeah, they're definitely like little humans with personalities, tastes, curiosity. And it's empowering as a parent to be able to give them that opportunity. Like we went to play,
Mm-hmm.
Sailor and I went to play, and she loves it, and she wants to go back every single weekend because it's cool. It's empowering. They're treated not like, okay, well, you're mommy's little helper, you're this. Like you are the audience within that. And I think that's one of the
Right.
things that's changing, is the kid really being the audience versus, being the sidekick with mommy or daddy.
Totally. Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, I think that to that end, there's also like just people's houses are more on display than they ever were. So they want their kids' stuff to look like, not like their house is filled with a bunch of plastic shit. So like there is that too, like, and for better or for worse, like I will say living in Europe, like kids here, they live a simpler life, for better or for worse, I think. And like you do see the difference. But like you're in Milan, those kids are dressing like they're out there. They're doing the thing.
Yep.
So yeah, no, I think it's really cool. Like I mean, I like you said, I agree with the negatives, or like the whole like, should kids be using skincare, and like that stuff is all really like semi problematic. But I do think there is the flip side of like, it's just made giving more respect for what their taste level is, and like they're cool little sophisticated individuals with lots of personality and things to say.
Totally. Like I'm so stoked to see how the way we're parenting, and generally, like I'm sure I'm fucking them up somehow, there's no doubt. But like the way that we're empowering them to be people and to be confident and to have exposure and to know about various things, how that's going to impact them as adults. Like I think that's rad.
Yeah. I mean, who knows? Like every generation will tell you you've done it wrong. So I know that you're
Oh,
doing it wrong,
yeah,
just preemptively. And
100%.
so am I,
100%.
and we'll learn better next time.
Yes, we'll know better. All right. I want to talk about the Tiffany rollout, because like, wow, like well done.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think Tiffany's is an interesting brand because I think like they have managed to kind of evolve, and they went through some like
Mm-hmm.
weird graffiti era feeling. Like they got really stuck in the 90s to early 2000s for a minute, and it was a lot of like pop-ups with graffiti and like trying to be like
Mm-hmm.
cool like New York. And I think they've kind of calmed down from that. Like maybe the quiet luxury is actually like working for them as a brand. And I thought this like collection, the ring was sophisticated, like the actual collection and the ring that they focused on was
Mm-hmm.
sophisticated, and then the way that they rolled it out to stylists is so super smart. And then like peripherally, like stylists like and their world, right? Like hair and makeup artists, photographers, da 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 da.
Yeah.
It was clever, and yeah, all in one day, and it felt, there is like, there's always that feeling when there's like, it's like when Graza did it and everybody wants to emulate that, but it is hard to do and it takes a lot. And like, this does not happen with like no budgets. Like this is a like concerted effort. Like I will say, they didn't try to do reels. They didn't try to do any like fancy like, oh, like, and then the ring is like, you know, it flips into this and it like, you know, like it's on top of the Eiffel Tower and like, you know.
Right.
Like they went for simple posts. Everybody had the basically like the same photo. It's like, here, I have my ring on, my hand is next to my face. Like the art direction is classic.
Yeah. But to me, it's a good example of clearly they gave clear art direction, but everybody wasn't the exact same pose in the exact same way. It was like, take that, make sure, you know, it's 3/4, your hand is being shown, but like do it in kind of your own way. And there was some room within the caption of how they did it. There was just some room that it felt like, if you know each of those stylists, if you follow any of those stylists, like it was right for their particular post and felt really like, I wasn't really even aware that it was such a big rollout until you shared it with me. And then it was like, oh, well, right, of course, connecting the dots, which is exactly what it's supposed to do, right? Feel more organic, and you see the people that you're following versus feel like it's this big mass marketing ploy.
Exactly. Yeah. And everybody kind of had a sophistication of their own, like they were all sophisticated, but they weren't homogenous in their sophistication. That makes sense.
Great delineation, for sure. All right. Well done, Tiffany. Brandy Melville, which is such a fascinating brand, because I think, and I was talking to somebody who was actually inspired by sharing it in the newsletter, and we were doing a little bit of a deeper dive, looking online. We were looking at something for a project that we're working on, looking online, and just looking at their online presence. Like, to me, this is a brand that clearly knows their audience. You know, their stores are so specific. Like, I go in there and I'm like, oh my God, how do I figure this out? How do I, blah, blah, blah. But there's always a line, who their audience is. And then their online experience is exactly right, again, for their customer. We couldn't figure out, is it AI? Is it all social? Like, what is that actually looking like? But it's like, well done of really knowing who their brand is, who their audience is, and everything that they do, interpreting for the right medium.
Totally. And they've stuck to their guns. I mean, like they are not size inclusive, but they are sort of like size inclusive, I guess. Like, and that's like one of the things, like, depending on who you talk to, like, it's like, well, like you can wear a tank top and like not be skinny, and like that's also fine. And like, I think they've always stuck to kind of their philosophy on it, and like they have not wavered until this new brand, St. George. As their audience is growing up. So that's fascinating too. But yeah, I think like just getting into TikTok, like, so after I saw, I think it was Casey Lewis, like posted that like Brandy Melville TikTok originally. And I was just like fascinated. I was like, okay, like how did we not end up there in Milan? And then I was like, of course, would we have been there? But like, from a research perspective, clearly we should have gone. And then I started getting in Amsterdam, Rome, like, it's like a whole comparison thing going on in the comments. Everybody has their favorite one. And a lot of people posting that, like, it's like, hey, I'm going to Paris. Like, I'm going to see the Eiffel Tower, but first I'm going to Brandy Melville.
I mean, it's amazing.
It's amazing. It's amazing.
Yeah.
And they do some like specific merch. Like there was one in Zurich, and like they definitely have like localized, but like they definitely, I wouldn't say it's as localized as like a 70-30 mix, like I think it's more of a
right
90-10 mix. You definitely can get more stuff, and like size seems to matter, like the size of the store, not the size of the clothes, obviously. But like people really want like these bigger stores, and I think as they've rolled out into Europe, they've learned that, and so they're opening bigger and bigger stores, but then they become destinations because of their size. Like whereas in the US, like a lot of the stores are really small in mall, like they're like those tiny little like packed to the gills. I mean, these are packed to the gills too. They're just huge. Right.
Yeah. It's it's just to me a great example of a brand that's like truly knows their path and they're going after their path. They're not saying, oh, but look, this retailer is doing this. Oh, but look at this retailer is doing this, and constantly like moving. They know who they are, they know what they should be, and they interpret that for every single medium. And I think it's awesome.
But yeah, I think also the takeaway though for brands could be that like now, because it's similar to pop-ups, like in terms of strategy, like your retail like isn't just like, oh, like, you know, so and so lives in X market and that's their Brandy
Mm-hmm.
Melville store. They're experiencing all Brandy Melville stores, like at all times, because people are doing hauls, they're doing walkthroughs, they're
Yeah,
like, so I know what the Amsterdam one looks like. I know that the Rome one looks like, and that makes it so that they become destinations, right? Like it's a little bit like the Zara home thing, where we were like,
mm,
oh, there's a huge Zara home, like I've never been to a Zara home that big. Like it's on my list of things to do when I'm there. And I
yeah,
do think retail brands like they maybe used to do that. Like I think they used to be kind of this more like flagship, like destination
totally,
drive. And,
totally.
and in the age of magazines, when people would like see it in a magazine and then they're like going, and then that disappeared. And then I think we went into this sort of like everything, every store wants to be exactly the same. Like
Cookie
every
cutter.
store should be like, you should feel like, and there was a strategy to it. Like you should feel like you got there and like you got the same experiences you got in New
Mm-hmm.
York, and like that makes you feel good about your like North Carolina like location. Like your J. Crew is as good as New York's J. Crew, right? Like there
Yeah,
is a strategy there. And that is not the strategy now. Like that is not it.
yeah,
Like sameness and like it's like you want to be ubiquitous, like you want to be there, but you can't be the same. Like there needs to be a distinction between the stores. There needs to be a reason. And if there is a reason, then you can become a destination.
totally. 100%. Because otherwise it's like I've seen it. And that's how J. Crew feels. I've seen it. Why would I go? Whereas, yeah. But I
Exactly.
think what's important within that destination is make them different, but also like that 80-20 rule or 90-10 rule of like do some localization. So there's a reason to go in a specific city wherever you are versus, oh, I can just get that in blah, 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 or I can just get that online.
Yeah, I will say that there used to be a lot of localization with like artists and all that stuff, and that's still very cool. But like I would say now, like my experience of it is more, it seems like local product and not like, oh, local product and we worked with an artist necessarily. Like literally stuff designed just for that store, like
Cool.
designed in
That's
the
rad.
same, like, you know, it's like that's what Kith is doing. Like Kith has a capsule collection that is
Yeah.
Malibu, but it's not like, oh, we worked with a Malibu artist and put a surfboard on it. It's just like literally just good clothes that they would normally make, but they're only going to sell it in that store. So
Right.
it gives
Which is
you a
great.
reason to go and get that product. And I think it feels like we've talked about like sort of now like that merch is everywhere. There's merch
Mm-hmm.
fatigue. And I think I would classify those like artist collaboration tees and things like that as merch.
Yeah.
Those aren't product so much
Totally.
to me.
Totally. Totally. All right. Love it. I will definitely go check out their store in Montana. Maybe when I do the Kith Malibu visit as well. All north.
Great.
All right, heavy weights.
All right, this is a topic just for you.
So amazing, right? So after checking in with my doctor and like figuring out, right, like hormones and like I'm on all the things, I eat super healthy, exercise, do everything. But of course, she was like, you've got to start, what'd you say, weightlifting and eating a shit ton of protein. We're supposed to have like 30 milligrams of protein 3 times a day.
Very
Like,
difficult.
I don't know how that's possible. But was of course like you need to weight train. And it's not, and then I was like, I tried to go down this whole rabbit hole of like a few different podcasts of people that are hormone like menopause specialists, right? That are like in this world, these rad women. And then I was like, there was one podcast entitled, you know, will Pilates Legree method be a part of weightlifting? I was trying to find my excuses so that I wouldn't have to do the weightlifting because I do a shit ton of other things. And it was like, nope, there's nothing there's nothing
You have
like
to lift heavy,
lifting.
heavy weights. Like it's like barbells, dumbbells. Like it's the stuff that I like to do. So at least I've got the leg up on that. It's like the interest is there. So that's good. Get yourself a prison gym, number one. My husband built a very rudimentary gym in our basement, and I like to call it the prison gym. But it
totally
works well for us. Yeah, I mean, I think this is a huge space. Like, you know that I'm borderline obsessive about
Obsessed.
like over 50s. I'm like, I was talking to somebody about
I'm
it
here
today.
for it.
I have it is my soapbox. I've had different soapboxes over time.
Yep.
Third tier cities, pickleball, like I don't know, all the things. This is my soapbox du jour. And this is it. Like, I think brands that focus on people that are 50 plus, say, I don't really like the category of like boomer, blah, 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 blah. I think it's just like a behavioral thing of certain things are happening. So like menopause is more of a phase, like can happen at various times. Like age is not really the specific like interest to me. But like these places are not appealing. Like I'm no bad mouthing a like a CrossFit Box. Like if that's your jam, like lovely. But these places are not servicing like 90% of people's interests. And I don't think that space exists. Like I don't think it's like done yet. And like another one that's like popular, and if you follow like the rabbit holes that I go down, like weighted vests are huge. So like you can wear these weighted vests, and I know the shit I know is really disturbing.
Listen to this. You don't even know this. On Friday night, went to dinner with Randy and David, and that was Randy's soapbox. She bust out this picture of her in a weighted vest and was saying that it has the same blah, 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 the compounding of lifting heavy weights. Like, it's a situation. You are 1000% right.
I know I am. This is the disturbing reality of like the soapbox, is that when you know you're on the soapbox and you know you're right, it's like you start spewing this knowledge and people are looking at you like you're literally insane, and you're like, but I know I'm right. Like I know that I've looked into this. Like with pickleball, like I was telling people about pickleball 6 years ago, 7 years ago, and people were looking at me like I was cross-eyed. Weighted vests are like one big option, and you wait and you go up in size. So basically like you start off at the lower level and then you to graduate and keep graduating. These things look horrific, like so uncool, so undesirable. I wanted to tell my mom to get one. I can't find one to offer her. Like the one I posted in the newsletter is the best one I found, and
that's the one Randy has.
It still looks pretty horrific, but it's the best one. But like, there's also like all of these things. Like, I happen to work out with my brother-in-law, who's a personal trainer, and he specializes in elder people generally. Obviously, I'm not in that category, but he's my brother-in-law. So, and what's been so interesting is the way that he so I have like a funky elbow. I've had a funky elbow since I was 20 from some stupid like TRX thing I did. It never got better. And he was telling me like, so you've got this, like your joint is not as strong as your muscles on top. So he's basically been doing like a lot of isometrics, but also like these, like using the weights in reverse. I can't explain it. You'd have to look it up. But these techniques are techniques that work for elder people. And like, because their joints give out before their muscles give out. It's not like their muscles are getting weaker, but their joints are also not helping them. So like there's all of these things that would matter if somebody came in and like created these programs. And I'm like so obsessed and ready for somebody to do this, like do it in a big way, roll it out to like, Palm Springs, Florida,
Let's do
San Diego, Santa Barbara.
Let's do it.
Like it has to happen. But I do think it's also for brands, like to kind of tie the soapbox back for our brands, is that I think like, like workout fitness gear, Lululemon, Nike, there is a whole group of women who are coming down this pipe and they are not served at all.
Yeah.
Like what you wear to work out when you're doing weightlifting is also like can be slightly different. You may also need some like supportive things that you wouldn't necessarily need if you're doing Pilates. As you get older, you're probably not in that camp. But like, you know,
Do I
like
need a new wardrobe for this? For my weightlifting? Like, do I need to go to gold chain?
no, but like if you
Like,
need to like support your back or something, if you're
oh,
lifting
right,
heavy
right. Yeah.
weights, then you might wear these like kind of like back thingies, and
Yeah.
those look terrible too, like so undesirable. So yeah, I just have so many thoughts on. I think it could also be a whole furniture line. I have feelings. I have
Yeah.
feelings.
Yeah. If anyone's interested in creating this with us, reach out because it's going to happen.
Good. I gotta make it happen.
Yes, indeed. All right. Last one I want to talk about is the world of Francis Ford Coppola. And again, like I saw a post of this from Sophia that was like, oh, that looks cool. And then didn't put the two together. And it's like, then digging into it, it's like, well, of course.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, it does not look cool. It literally looks like a rebranded Days Inn. So, like, if you know them, very willing to redo that identity. But I think that to me, what is amazing is this idea of like niche hospitality, right? Like this is a very
Mm,
particular need. You're servicing all of their needs. I think this is how people are also traveling now that like there's, I mean, granted, again, movie space has always been like what it is, right? Going on location and doing
right.
things. But like people are traveling more while they're working, doing certain things. It's like gyms now are putting in office spaces so that people can like do some work between their. So say you have a class at 10 and a class at 12 and you want to work, like they're building office spaces in the gyms so that you can do like a call and then you can go to your other class. Like,
So smart.
so, you know, like I think that to me, like this all intersects of like looking at what people need. Aman is doing like a lot of creative, like creator
Hmm.
stuff, but very bougie, like high end. Like it's all tied together for me.
Yep.
And I think I really think that's only going to grow. Um, because quite honestly, like no one really needs to travel for work anymore, like other than if you're going on site. So you need to give people a reason to travel for work.
Yeah.
Um, and if you create like these kinds of spaces that you could do that, like I think it could be like if you had a hotel that specialized in giving like cool retail insiders like tours, like I would
Hmm.
go to that hotel just to do that,
Totally.
just to have that like kind of booked. But like I want it to be of a certain caliber. Like I'm a certain type of person, right? Like there's a creative class like sort of level. And you know, when you go to Soho House, they have the list and they kind of like they do those
Yeah.
cool like books and things, and that's probably as close as I get. But like to me, like it would be slightly different. It would be like a concierge service, like made for like work discovery trips or something, you know, like I
Totally.
think this is the kind of amenity that people are like, why am I traveling for work? I don't need to travel for work. Everybody wants to make a Zoom like meeting, like
Right.
so
Right. To make it more experiential. Yeah, totally. I mean, it's like we've got a thing or two to learn from like the Lego hotel, you know, it's like it's the opposite of the earlier challenge of like what's happening from an experience level within that. Like these people are starting to do it and starting to give reason to the experience of traveling.
yeah, I mean, I think it's like I could also tie it to that hotel that we went to with the kids in Switzerland, right? Like to me, like
Yep.
so what Airbnb did to hotels is they came in, they decimated the like family market, right? Like they just took out like every family was like, why on earth would I go to sleep in the bathtub so that like I can have a glass of wine? Like I'm done. And then they started going to Airbnbs. And now Airbnb is like, you know, it's complicated. There's all like, there are always like so many things and they charge all these like things. And you're
Yeah,
like, actually, like going to a hotel like has all these cool benefits. So
for sure. I'm
now,
in
like
that
in
camp.
Europe, there are non-cheesy, like literally like really nice, cool hotels that have all of this stuff for kids, like a a playground that has coffee bars and wine bars and things overlooking it with, you know, classes for them to do. And like, and you feel good when you're a parent there. Like you feel like you're getting a vacation. It's like Club Med, but like not a Club Med,
Totally,
you know, like.
totally. Yeah, it all comes back to the experience, I think, and it's just realizing who your audience is, what your brand stands for, and make sure you're creating that experience.
Yeah, I think in the US, like, this is anecdotal, but like a lot of my parent friends, they just sort of like bow out of traveling for like 10 years. They're like, I can't, like, it's just too difficult. And I have never bowed out. Like, I just leaned in, you know, move across the world, like, keep traveling more and more. But like, it's just very different here. And like, to me, this goes into a niche. Like, you can do a cool niche kids hotel, and like, if it's well done, like, just like these cool boutique hotels in Hudson are, like, they're all focused on wellness, but like, you could make one for kids. Like, tie it back to the first thing. Like,
totally,
the US needs more cool kids hotels. That's my other soapbox.
Yes, make it and they will come.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Anything else? That it?
I mean, so much more, but yeah, we're going to keep it under time. Those are the 5.
All right. Sounds good. All right. Ciao.
Enjoy the week.